Right, okay guys, so what I've done is I've laid out all the tools and equipment down there that we're going to need to do this job. I've done lots of research now on the internet and from people that I've been speaking to, and I thought that I'd put together a nice sort of straightforward itinerary of what's needed for anybody who's thinking about doing this themselves, instead of, you know, looking through the hours and hours worth of video or trying to figure it out yourself, really. So starting us off, we've got some mastic ceiling strip bought from Torshaw's in Sheffield. I know they sell it in other caravan supply shops, and I believe they sell it in Screwfix under like a 3M butyl tape or something, and it says it's specially formulated for sealing and rebedding caravan fittings. I've seen a lot of people use that. Makes sense when you've got those ribs on your roof that, you know, create voids, so that helps build that up so that you're not using as much silicone, really. Then we've got some rubber gloves. The silicone's really messy, you know, once it's on you it's not really going to hurt you, however it does like to stick on there. I recently fitted a bonded window and I had black on my hand for about 3 days. No amount of scrubbing took it off. We've got a metal file just down there. We've got some red oxide primer, stop it from rusting. That's really good. I've had it on the bottom of my van for a while now, and still it's been about a year and there's no rust. And the brush to apply that with. I've got some duct tape. I'm going to use that to hold the metal on as I'm cutting it out up there. So once you see you've done 3 sides and it's starting to flap about a bit, so I'm not trying to catch some spiky metal full of burrs. Got that. We've got silicone going, of course. Then over there, I know everybody talks about this 512 or 221 Sikaflex. I did actually speak to a guy who seemed really clued up and really confident that actually they're all made in the same factory, and they're just rebranded under different names, but it's all the same stuff. That stuff there is from a specialist caravan supplier again, but they didn't have any Sikaflex, or I would have chosen it because I am a bit of a sheep when I come to seeing everybody else using it. But apparently it's the same stuff. They use it when they do their caravan, their conversions. So if that's good enough for them, they sell their vehicles at 35-40 grand. It's good enough for me. I've got some solvent, some degreaser. I've looked high and low for alcohol, and Maplin's used to sell it and Boots used to sell it, and everybody seems to be doing away with it. I imagine there's too many alcoholics or something nicking it. Over there I've got some TFR, a traffic film remover. It's absolutely amazing, that stuff that's in there. It's what you'd get at like a professional valet at the side of the road. I've got that just to clean the van area. Over here we've got a Dremel with a cutting tip on it. That's not needed really, but I've got it, so I might as well use it. You could easily replace that with a hacksaw, and it's just going to be for cutting these. Where is it? It's going to be used for cutting these down. On my particular model, there's these like little spacers that are supposed to be cut down to size. Obviously you can do that with a hacksaw, you can do that with whatever you've got to hand really. Stanley knife instead of a scriber. I've got a pair of scissors for cutting the tapes that I've got. Saw one guy on YouTube use this, these like silicone shaper tools. Instead of using your finger and creating like a really rough joint, they make it look a little bit more professional by the looks of it, so I'm going to have a go at using them. Frog tape for sticking to the bottom of the jigsaw and also to the roof to prevent the like surrounding area being scratched. Frog tape mainly because duct tape's quite tacky and can sometimes leave like some of the glue, and masking tape's not always strong enough and it kind of blows away. So for my particular roof light, other than that stuff I've just shown you, which is probably going to be quite generic, I would add ladders for getting it inside and some ladders to get outside. The actual roof light itself, I'm going to put a rug or a carpet up on the roof so that it's not so cold because I'm a wimp. Oh, and some clamps to clamp the wooden frame onto the roof. So first things first, I'll just tell you a little bit about my roof light. I've got the Dometic Mini Heki style one. It's quite big, it cost about 90 quid. So as you can see, on this style of light, it's been designed to go in a camper van that's already got insulation in the roof, as you can see by that picture there. And we don't have insulation in our roof. We've got bare metal, 2mm thick, and it's got ribs on it, so it's not a flat surface. And for us to be able to put this up effectively, we need to imitate that insulation, which actually will eventually be there anyway. And the way to do that is to create a wooden frame. And so if we look at that first step there, the wooden frame, it actually says on my model 400 by 400. So that is what I'm going to do. My internal diameter has to be 400 by 400. I'm just going to create a really basic butt jointed frame. My wood is actually 45. So 45 there, 45 down here. That's going to be 90 on top of 400. We're going to have to make a mark at 490. Cut flush with the chop saw and make another. And I'm going to need 2 at 40 or 400. I'm going to cheat with this next one. I'll line the 2 up there, mark it there and cut. Okay, so we've got a frame made. I've checked it's square, I've checked it's 400 by 400, so that's spot on. I've banged a couple of screws in the ends to make sure it's nice and rigid. Next, we need to find where we want to put our roof light. Some have them at the back, some have them towards the front or the middle. You can put it wherever you want, obviously. We're going to have ours in this sort of like front half of the van, and we want it central. So if you take a look at the ribs, might not be the same for your van, but I suspect it probably is. We've actually got like a central rib running down. Well, it's not a rib, is it? It's like a gunnel, a channel running down the centre of the van. So that is a perfect point from which to measure outwards. The 2 ribs there are good points at which to find the centre and then again measure out. So we'll be able to have got a square marked out on the roof there. Hopefully you can see what I've done there. I actually used a craft knife to scribe in the lines, and then I went over it with a dry white marker and then rubbed it off. So we've got a nice clean, really fine line. For those that don't know, that's the centre punch. We've got a chamfered edge on there that's really broad, and that creates like a really solid tip, so it's used for metal work and it won't go blunt as easily. All we're going to do is we're going to stick that there. I'm going to get a little bosh with the I've actually got a claw hammer, and then we're going to drill pilot hole. Got some warm soapy water. I'm going to clean the whole area up there, and then I'm going to put some red oxide primer on it to prevent it from rusting. Right, so what I've read is that there's been lots of people that have fitted these windows, not just this brand, but like these roof lights, only to find after a couple of months that they're leaking, sometimes straight away. And apparently it's down to the releasing agent when it comes out of the injection mould, to allow it to come out nicely, and that needs cleaning off. Now apparently warm soapy water will work. I'm going to do this and then some degreaser. Dry it all up. You're going to want to put your roof light on something like this cardboard. You could use a table or a workbench or whatever it is that you've got. I'm just doing all my work in van, and I'm using the box that it came with. Perfectly fine. That's going to save it from getting scratched up then. So I've seen a few people just swizzling it around on the floor. Just some normal blue roll. Give that a right good dry. So you can see the bottom bit slid in. This top bit then sits down on top of there. Now what you'll notice is we've got this big gap. I want this to be sat flush like that, with thickness of the roof in there. And this bit down here will then be hanging out by that instead. I'm just going to take these off like a couple of mil each, and hopefully that'll make it even more snug of a fit. So we've got mosquito net, and we've got blind, which looks pretty cool. Quite like that.